Jatiel.
Down in the dungeon is all we know, where the shining light, we never go into the open as far as you.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Clueless Homemaker. My name's Rebecca and I am clueless about a lot of things.
Rise, embrace what you see now, don't you feel?
So today we're going to talk about sewing. I'm going to show you some sewing basics, show you how to sew a hem. Okay, so I'm actually going to be doing this with my friend Jenny, my best friend Jenny, who happens to also be my neighbor. It's the perfect setup. Jenny has a sewing machine but doesn't know how to use it. So she asked me if I would do this for her, which I'm happy to do. Jenny is my best friend and I would do absolutely anything for her. So anytime she asks me to do anything, I'm so happy to be able to do it because she's awesome. Everybody needs a Jenny. She said she would like me to show her how to do these things so that she could kind of know how to do them for herself. So I figured why not record it, me showing her, and I'll show you because maybe you want to know how to do this stuff too. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you super quick is how to set your machine up. This is easy peasy, but if you don't know how to do it, it looks completely terrifying. I got a sewing machine for Christmas years and years ago. Actually, this sewing machine, it's over 20 years old and still running strong. And I left it in the box forever because I didn't know what anything was. I didn't know what this was. I didn't know how to thread it. I didn't know what any of these things meant. Still don't know what most of them mean, but I took a class and now I know how to do the basics. So I'm going to show you the basics. So first things first, this is a very basic machine. And again, I don't know how to do everything. So the things I show you are going to be like for your novice. Like if you want to sew new throw pillows for your couch, if you want to sew stockings at Christmas time, if you want to sew easy little bathing suit cover-ups, stuff like that are the things that I can do. And I can show you guys how to do those if it's something you're interested in. In fact, I think that might be really fun to do, showing you guys how to make easy throw pillows and the cheapest way to do it. So maybe we will do that because I do need some new throw pillows. And then my husband wouldn't get upset at me if I was doing it for a video. Jenny had to run home because I don't have the color thread we need. She was seeing if she has the thread. So we're just going to get started with the basics. Here we go. This is called a bobbin. And this is going to go underneath. So when you sew with a sewing machine, thread is going from the top and the bottom at the same time, and that's why it's such a good strong hold. So to do that, we have to put the thread on the bobbin. Easy to do, but not very fun. Jenny's here now, and we're so excited. Everybody give it up for Jenny.
I decided to do this voiceover style with a little help from Radley in the back there. So you're going to need some thread, the thing that holds the thread on, a bobbin, an empty bobbin, some scissors, and of course your old sewing machine. First things first, we're going to put the thread on that little doohickey up there and pop that cover on so that it doesn't go flying off. You're going to run your thread underneath the holder guide at the top there and then around that little circle once or twice. You want to put it through your bobbin from the inside out. So in those little holes, you don't want to go from the outside in, but from the inside out. There you go. Pop it on there, lock it into place. Turn your machine on and press the button that makes it so that the needle doesn't go up and down. Get ready with your foot pedal. Now you're going to hold it up and press your foot pedal down and you'll see the bobbin will just fill up. You can see from Radley's face back there, it's not a very good sound, but it'll automatically stop when your bobbin is full. When it's done, unlock it and pop it off, and then we're just going to cut it. And make sure you press that button so that the needle can go up and down again. Now we're going to put it in here. This takes a little bit of practice to kind of get it through one latch and then the other, and then you're going to pull it out in the back and close it. Now we're going to thread this. We're going to just wrap it through that little guide there, down, up, move the needle with the turner on the side to go up, and the up position is where it's easiest. You kind of put it on and it'll pull back down. bring it down, put it through this little curlicue thing, and then we're gonna put it from the front to the back through the eye. This can be a little difficult. It's easier for me if I put the plate thing down and then pull it through. Once you guide your thread the rest of the way through that little guider, you have to bring the bobbin thread up. So you're gonna go down and up with your needle. I use some scissors to kind of hold it in place, and then it'll make a little loop with the bobbin thread, and you kind of pull that and see how it's coming up through that middle. That's what you want. You want that thread to come up through the middle. This thing in the back is a little cutter in case you didn't know you had it. It's behind your needle. This is your needle position. I always leave it on A. This is your pattern selection. I always leave it on A. This is your stitch width. I always leave that on a straight line. Again, I'm not that good. This coming up is the length of your thread, and that button in the middle is your back stitch button, and this is the thread tension.
So now I'm going to show you how to hem pants. These are really easy. They're not jeans. I'm going to insert the clip right here of how to measure where you want to hem and how you do that. So here's that.
I'm using my sweet little model for this one. This is actually a pair of pants she needs hemmed. So what I'm gonna have her do is she should be standing with both feet down, although she likes to pose. And you're just gonna pull up, not twice or 3 times. We're not rolling them up. We're gonna roll them up once so we see where we want the length to be. I always try to keep it a little bit long, like a little bit past the ankles. It just sort of allows for a little bit of room. And then you're gonna pin it at the top. Get a fake owl from your child who's super dramatic. I pin it at the top at both seams, the inseam and the outseam. I think that's what it's called, I'm not sure, but you guys just can see what I'm talking about. And then at the bottom, so just 4 pins. You can also use safety pins, but this is just what I had on hand. As a sweet little side note, the pin holder that's on my wrist showed up 2 days after I hemmed Jenny's son's pants as a thank you. That's what I mean by everybody needs a Jenny. So now you can see the difference on how good it's gonna look when those pants are hemmed. On my kids, I only pin one side while it's on them, and then I'll just cut the other side and pin it exactly like that.
Okay, so now what you're gonna do is you're gonna turn your iron on and let it heat up for whatever setting the pants are. In this case, polyester is what we're doing. You're gonna make sure that your pants are right side out when you cut. After that, we're gonna turn them inside out. And I pinned them so that I could see where the bottom should be. So you want to cut them, wherever you want the bottom to hang, you want to cut them about 1 inch further down than that. The smaller amount that you leave, the better that your hem looks, because it's not going to be so much material behind it, but it's also harder to sew with less material. So I would do about 1 inch, because we're going to have to roll it up and iron it twice. But it also depends on what material. If you're using jean material, let's say denim, you're going to have to allow a little bit more, because to fold it, it takes a little bit more material. This one is pretty thin though. And we did it with a safety pin, but I'm going to put in a couple other pins just so that I have a better line. We're also going to use a ruler and measure it so that it's even and not lopsided. So this one we want to be right at 4 inches. So I will cut. Yeah, you want to give yourself about 1 inch to work with. Maybe even 1.5 inches if the material's heavier. So I'm going to cut 3 inches off. And what you're going to do is just set your ruler, or your, what's this called?
Tape measure?
Your tape.
I don't know.
Is this not a tape
No,
measure, is it?
I don't know.
What is this called?
Measure.
Measuring tape,
Is it?
but not a tape measure.
Okay.
That's weird. Your measuring tape, where you want it, in this case 3 inches, and I'm just going to mark in a couple spots so that I can cut without worrying about it turning out lopsided. And don't worry about it being perfect. It's going to be forgiving, especially with the hem. I mean, if you're off, a tiny bit, or it is a little bit uneven, you're really not going to notice. You just want to do as best as you can. And when you're first starting out, start off, don't practice on like your husband's suits. Practice on I started practicing on my kids' pajamas, and then move to my kids' jeans and basically stick with your kids' stuff.
I measure at a few places and place pins because then it just makes a nice line for me to cut with.
Okay, then the thing I always do after I cut them is I just fold them together and make sure that everything is even. Uh-oh. Just kidding, I just want to get Jenny nervous. They're even. Okay, so now we have an inch to work with. So, ow, that was the Lord. So now we're going to turn them inside out. And the iron has been heating up. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll them up. So we have an inch to work with. So we're going to roll them up a ½ inch iron and then roll them up again a ½ inch and iron. And it's just easier to do it this way, I think, have them inside out, because this is the way that you roll them. And the reason you have to roll them twice and not once is because if you only roll them once and then sew it, you'll always get this little part, like eventually after washing and stuff, that will like hang down, and it just doesn't look finished. It doesn't look good.
Now you're going to roll up a ½ inch and keep measuring as you go to make sure that it's a ½ inch all around. Once you're sure of your measurements, you're just going to iron the heck out of that bad boy. You want it nice and flat with a straight, crisp line. Then turn it over and do the same thing on the other side. I find it easiest to do one side at a time with measuring and ironing. Now you're going to roll it up another ½ inch, but you don't need to measure as much this time because you can just match it to that first roll. I will measure it again just to make sure, but it's always been the same. And once you have that, you're just going to iron the heck out of that again. And you can see I kind of keep playing with it. It's just to make sure that I have it as straight as possible. And it's really important to make sure that the seam of where you roll up matches right along with the seam of the rest of the pants. Now I put in several pins to give myself a line of where to sew and to make sure that I keep that nice crease. Now it's time to sew. Make sure that you put the machine in the pant leg so you don't sew them together. Rookie mistake I've made a couple times. You want to make sure that you line it up so that that foot, which is what that clear part is called, you can kind of use that as a guide. I always start at my end seam. That way, if there's any sort of a mistake on my back stitch, you can't see it. So you go forward a little bit and then you press your back stitch button on your machine. For me, it's that button that I showed you guys that's located inside the stitch length. And then you're just going to keep sewing all the way around, taking your time. And when you get to the end, you're going to go back again to do a back stitch to finish it off, and then you're going to cut off anything, little excess threads. I'm going to show you the other leg from a little bit further back so you can actually see what I mean by the back stitch. See that button I just pressed? And then I just keep following it around, taking my pins out as I go. Keep moving, taking my time. When I get to both seams, the inside seam and the out seam, I want to make sure that those are lined up perfectly, because that's really going to be where you notice any sort of mistakes. And then when I do my back stitch again is when I get to where I started. Here I'm showing off my work. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Now is the moment of truth where we're going to put these right side out and see, fingers crossed that they're even. They're even. Look at that line, folks.
Wow.
This is a $50 job. Do it yourself.
Down in the dungeon is all we know, where the shining light, we never go into the open. As far as you can see it, wasting there, a big bright destiny. Don't you feel like breaking free?
This is the stitch width. I always leave that on the straight line. Not that good. This is the length of your stitch, and that thing in the middle is your back stitch button. I'll talk about that in a minute. And this is your tension. This is your stitch width. I always leave that on a straight line. Again, I'm not that good. This coming up is the length of your thread, and that button in the middle is your back stitch button, and this is the thread tension. As a sweet little side note, the little pin holder I'm wearing on my wrist showed up as a gift from Amazon 2 days after As a sweet little side note, the pin holder that's on my wrist showed up 2 days after I hemmed Jenny's son's pants as a thank you.